This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Candice Lim.
And I'm Kate Lindsay. And you're listening to ICYMI,
In case you missed it,
Slate's podcast about internet culture. And before we dive into today, how are our weekends?
you know, it was good. Went outside, enjoyed the sun, did watch Good Will Hunting for the first time. And guess what, Kate? Good movie. I enjoyed it.
Wow. Someone should have brought up that that's a good movie.
Yep.
Someone should have told you before this.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you had a good weekend because my weekend was spent many hours deep into a story that is developing on TikTok right now that kind of started earlier this month and then again this past week, and it's still developing on my TikTok For You page. We're talking about what's going on with Kayla, Malec, and James Charles. And I want to note up top that today's episode will include discussion of domestic violence and abuse.
So let's start with a YouTube video that was posted by one of our main characters today, influencer Kayla Malec. Back in April, Malec posted a 2-hour-long video, and she starts by saying this.
For the past 9 months, I have been in arguably one of the worst mentally, physically abusive relationships I could ever imagine. Something I never thought that I would be experiencing, things I've only seen on TV, things that I've heard stories about, and things that I just knew I would never let happen to me. And I've been going through it for the past 9 months.
So that video is called He Doesn't Love You Part 1. There's also a Part 2. Both of these videos are around 2 hours long. I watched them both. In them, Malec accuses her ex-boyfriend named Evan Johnson of domestic abuse and violence. Sort of in these videos, she includes details and pictures. She took videos of her injuries and, even has videos of the abuse happening. She later posts a written statement on Instagram that she was, in quote, an extremely abusive relationship for the past 9 months.
And 3 days after this video is posted, her ex-boyfriend Johnson is charged by officials in Tennessee with domestic assault. Last week, he pled guilty to domestic assault along with driving under the influence in violation of probation. He's sentenced to 18 months in jail. He's ordered to have no contact with Malec, and he's also ordered to not operate TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook accounts under his name.
Malec then posted TikTok from outside of the courthouse with the caption, "I'm sobbing. For us, we did it," over the song Jail by Kanye West.
Kesha is in the comments writing, "I'm so proud of you. A win for one is a win for all of us." Jacob Sartorius is in this too.
Blast from the past to see his name, yeah.
He was one of the big Musical.ly lip syncers. He's also in the comments saying, "Kayla, you did it. I am so proud of you." 6 heart emojis.
And then Kayla follows up with a longer TikTok video processing her emotions post-sentencing.
For everybody saying 1.5 years isn't enough time, I know, but to know that I'm safe for the next 1.5 years, I can't put it into words. I'm in Tennessee right now. I'm in Nashville, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared, I could go to Broadway and not be scared. And knowing that genuinely, like, I don't know, I just feel really happy. It doesn't excuse what he did to me, but knowing that he finally got the consequences to his actions feels really fucking good. I'm overwhelmed with, like, for 9 months he won, but now I win, you know?
And so while Kayla did win this case in Tennessee, the internet is a whole different story right now because somehow the controversial makeup influencer James Charles enters the scene, and his involvement is almost causing more drama and getting more attention than Malec in her case.
So why is James Charles somehow always at the scene of the crime? When we come back, we'll dive into the details of Malec's case against her ex-boyfriend and how her story got sabotaged and overshadowed by petty influencer side drama.
Hey there! If you love our podcast, then maybe you should consider subscribing to Slate Plus to immediately unlock bonus episodes. Plus, you'll access ad-free listening across all your favorite Slate podcasts, including bi-weekly bonus episodes of our show. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/ICYMI Plus to get access wherever you listen. This episode is brought to you by the ACLU. The Trump administration is pushing a dangerous and sweeping agenda to control our bodies, our families, and our lives. President Trump has signed far-reaching executive orders that target transgender people, their rights, and their health care. But the ACLU and their partners are in court fighting back. Meanwhile, the ACLU is also at the Supreme Court fighting for the future of transgender people's freedom and bodily autonomy for all. U.S. v. Skrmetti centers on a Tennessee law restricting healthcare access for trans youth. Tennessee has asked the Supreme Court to expand the ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade to allow it. The fights for abortion and trans healthcare are connected. Learn more at aclu.org/autonomy. Oh, ICYMI listeners, do I have a scoop for you? So what is it, you ask? It's that Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Now, before anyone goes suggesting that this is just a rumor, know that there's actual proof that this kettle of tea is not only piping hot, but 100% true. So, yeah, sometimes it pays to be a little nosy, but it always pays to discover. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
And we're back. So, unfortunately, I do think we know who makeup and beauty YouTuber James Charles is. We will get to him later, but let's talk about the real main characters at hand, starting with Kayla Malec.
So Kayla Malec is a 19-year-old influencer who has more than 16 million followers on TikTok and 1.8 million subscribers on YouTube. I took a peek through her most popular TikTok videos, and I would say she's like this very experimental makeup influencer who also posts these like wild story times, crazy things her dad said, ghost stories, things like that. I've seen some people comment that she's like early Tana Mojo type vibes. Some of her most popular videos include collaborations with a certain makeup influencer who we will get to. But one thing I noticed very quickly, she graduated high school in 2023. So just keep in mind that the person we're talking about is very young and has a lot of followers for that age.
Yeah. And in the past year, she was dating a 20-year-old, aspiring, smaller content creator named Evan Johnson. Right now, it is a little hard to scroll through his content because, according to his court order, he can't operate TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook accounts under his name. I did find an Instagram that I think is his under his name with 135,000 followers. The last post was in December. It links to a Snapchat account under him that was pretty active. He also had like over 100,000 followers on that.
Yeah, and according to Kayla's video on YouTube, she and Evan met in May of 2024 after a friend of a friend invited her down to Nashville. And while there, she says she just fell head over heels. She ended up flying back to Nashville days after the trip was over to support him through some different legal trouble that he was going through at the time. And in that instance, he did end up getting sentenced to 22 days in jail.
And one thing Kayla's talked about when reflecting on all of this is just how many early red flags she either missed or tried to ignore, and one of their first dates, being at his court date, is definitely one of them.
Yeah, like I know us listening to that, we're like,
Yeah.
what? But, she tried to explain for people who've never been in this kind of dynamic that a reason it can be so hard to leave an abusive relationship is because, well, the lows are really low. The highs are so high. It feels like, you're the love you've never experienced before. And so it makes it really hard when the lows happen to, see them objectively. So it's easy to hear things like the court case of it all and be like, how could she stay? But when you're living it, nothing is black and white, and it's complicated and painful and toxic.
So he has his 22-day stint in jail.
Yeah, and then on June 24th, Evan is released. Kayla has flown back down to greet him. So she's been flying back and forth from California and Nashville this whole time. And she and his friend are there, and they greet him when he leaves, and then they go out to dinner, and then they go back to the house, and they're drinking. And sort of out of nowhere, Kayla says that Evan accuses her of having slept with his best friend.
Which is going to become a pattern. This accusation that Kayla is talking to other men or sleeping with his friends or her friends is often how their arguments begin.
Yeah, and in this case, in this sort of first instance, things did not really escalate beyond that. It was just very weird and hurtful. But Kayla says that, he had just gotten out of jail. He was probably in a weird mental place. So she brushed it off, and she ended up bringing him back with her to California. And so the next time this fight happens, it's on the 4th of July. And he gets mad at her because she was talking to a guy at this party they went to. And she said that she was talking to this guy about how she was like finally with Evan, finally with this boyfriend, and how she was so excited. But, he doesn't hear that. He doesn't want to hear it. And that argument ends with him pushing her into the water. They were near a body of water at the time. And then the next time that this argument happens is when Kayla says the alleged physical abuse began in earnest. She also documented the violence and included the videos in her YouTube explaining all of this. And I should just say, the videos are truly, truly disturbing. At the very end of the part 1, she has them just all in a row. And just, be mindful if you're going to go ahead and watch them.
And she's talked about how the abuse came in all forms. There was allegedly verbal violence, emotional manipulation, physical violence. At one point, she says he told her to commit suicide.
And it's also just like relentless, the same pattern over and over. Her not knowing what's going to set him off, and her having to sort of like try and just hide and scramble to cover up things because she'll see something that might set him off. It is just exhausting, but she can't tell anybody. She doesn't want to tell anybody. But her fans do start noticing something is up. In fact, there's a live stream, and the clip of it is one of the clips at the end of her first video, in which Kayla and Evan are in front of the live, and they're talking, and they get into an argument about him wanting to look through her phone, and all the viewers of the live start being like, red flag, and he gets really upset that they're saying he's a red flag or that they're mad at him. And, Kayla says this phone thing was pretty regular. He would often just ask her to hand it over so he could look through and see if she was texting other men. But finally, in January, after Kayla is just like truly, truly defeated, and also like starting to see kind of the true nature of his behavior and how messed up it actually is, they break up. It happens.
January 25th, I ended up finally cutting it off with him. And it was because I realized it wouldn't stop, and he wouldn't stop hitting me. He wouldn't stop hating me. He would never love me. And I opened my eyes to the fact that he never did love me. He resented me, and he hated me.
During the months after their breakup, but before Kayla posted the YouTube video, she had started to allude to having been in a domestic violence situation. But when she did drop the first full 2-hour video, the story she shared was so much worse than I think anyone had anticipated.
And thankfully, justice was served pretty swiftly. She announced in an April 18th TikTok that Evan had been arrested. And then on May 7th, Evan Johnson was found guilty.
But by then, a different story had begun to unfold, and it involves James Charles.
Because of course it does. So yeah, on April 29th, this content creator named Be Better posted an interview with someone named Zach Sellers. So Zach is a model, and he says he's a former friend of Evan's, and he went on the show to allege that not only did James Charles take Evan's side after the breakup, he even alleged that the pair had a romantic relationship.
We're going to run through what's happening with that, but first, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the side characters who seem like they are trying to get clout off of Kayla's trauma and why James Charles is always somehow a part of it.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today? Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices, and that's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies, so you can save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states and situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
Oh, ICYMI listeners, do I have a scoop for you? So what is it, you ask? It's that Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Now, before anyone goes suggesting that this is just a rumor, know that there's actual proof that this kettle of tea is not only piping hot, but 100% true. So, yeah, sometimes it pays to be a little nosy, but it always pays to discover. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
There was an influencer, a really big influencer, that was on the phone with him and was telling him that the best thing for him to do is to stay quiet, but go ahead and record some videos of him explaining his side of the story and the truth. And he says this is going to only help your case. So go ahead and get these recorded as soon as possible and have them.
So that was Zach Sellers talking in the interview that he did with Be Better. And he goes on to reveal that the huge influencer he's speaking about is, of course, James Charles.
Again, this is another hour-long video, so for the sake of time, we will quickly go through what James Charles is being accused of, which is that 1, James Charles advised Evan about how to navigate any public fallout from Evan's breakup with Kayla Malec. 2, at one point, James had Evan stay at James's house. And 3, that the pair allegedly had a sexual relationship. And here is what James Charles had to say to that.
I hate that I'm getting online and filming this video right now, but I truthfully have no other choice because I've also spent the last several weeks trying to get in contact with the only person involved in this that actually matters and needs to hear the truth, and that's Kayla Malec. And she has been unwilling to have a conversation with me. And frankly, I don't fucking blame her. After I watched the laughable interview between Be Better and Zach Sellers, I wouldn't want to have a conversation with me either if I was being fed complete bullshit lies and misinformation from the person whose only source of information is the same man that lied to and abused me for 9 months straight.
Yeah, so essentially what James says in the video is that he was in contact with Evan, and at one point Evan did stay at his house, but this was before James said he knew what had actually happened in their breakup. At that point, he had only gotten Evan's version of events because he says he and Kayla were not super close friends, like they were essentially, work colleagues in the YouTube beauty community, and she had yet to post her video. And so he is not saying that, that he and Evan didn't talk, that he didn't support him, that he didn't have Evan at his house, but he did not do these things knowing the full scope of their relationship and why they broke up.
So he's not denying those things, but he is denying that the pair ever had a physical, sexual relationship in any way. He also says he will be suing Zach Sellers.
And here's where things just become a clusterfuck. So Zach Sellers allegedly starts selling merch that says "Bye Sister" on it, which is in reference to James Charles's first big scandal. This rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, with them saying that Zach was trying to profit off of what was ultimately Kayla's trauma. Then someone else comes forward to say that when they were underage, Zach would ask him for pictures and would sometimes allegedly lie about his age.
Yeah, and there are so many allegations. Accounts are being deleted. Everyone's now like, what's Be Better going to say? But no one is talking about Kayla. And we should note that we did reach out to representatives for Kayla Malec, James Charles, and Zach Sellers for comment. They did not respond. Evan Johnson was unable to be reached for comment.
But I want to get back to Kayla, who has been, for the most part since the verdict, minding her business away from this drama, protecting her peace, I hope. And I do understand why Be Better thought it was important to publicize that a high-profile influencer like James Charles may have been supporting an abuser. But to me, this kind of highlights the difference between content and journalism. Like, had Zach had this story and taken it to a journalist, that journalist would have needed to sort of independently verify as much of and as many of Zach's claims as possible before publishing it. They wouldn't do what Be Better did, which is just add a disclaimer after the fact that reads, quote, "No statements have been verified, and I do not assert any claims as fact."
Instead of the story being Kayla got justice, the story is now Kayla got justice, but James Charles betrayed her, and who do you believe, James or Zach? And will Be Better say anything about the allegations against Zach? At this point, you're not hearing Kayla's name at all. Be Better's video is literally titled "Investigating James Charles." Even though it's about Kayla's abuse, the story is so far removed from her, but it's built off of her trauma.
And something you and I were both struck by is how James Charles is always finding himself in these situations. Yeah. Like, it's even a joke, like in his comments of this most recent apology video, people are commenting like, all right, see you this time next year, same time next year, like joking that this is such a, almost yearly occurrence for him. The drama always somehow involves him. And it does start with the very famous Bye Sister takedown video. This was a video made by beauty creator Toddy Westbrook. She made it about James Charles in 2019. It included allegations that James would try to coerce straight men into sex. Then in 2021, James was accused of sexting with underage boys. And while he did deny the initial allegation of coercing men, he did admit to sexting with people who he says told him they were 18, but he admits that it was his responsibility to sort of verify that and check.
And it seems like that narrative has just stuck with him, and it's a stereotype that is often applied to gay men, that they're sexually deviant and predatory.
And so because of those past allegations and then sort of the stigma that exists against gay men, James becomes a really easy target, which I think is kind of why we see him. Like, I think it's not a coincidence that James shows up in this story as, pursuing a straight man, being deviant, lying. Like, it is an accusation that people have frequently thrown at him. And I mean, we can't say for sure James did or didn't do anything, but it does sound like the situation is much more nuanced than how it was initially portrayed in that interview with Zach.
Which is the case with most things, which is why I think the whole side drama that came after Justice for Kayla should have been approached much more thoughtfully.
Yeah, I think another problem is that we're so used to consuming creator news in this very stylized apology video drama recap way, and those get a lot of attention, but they're not entertainment. Like, this was Kayla reclaiming her power and getting justice and wanting to share all of that in case it helps people. And, if you read the comments, you see a lot of people saying that this helped them. But this wasn't like a Netflix docuseries.
Yeah, which I think is a good time to say, Netflix, please don't make this a docuseries, and please don't ask us to do a little talking head segment for it. We're not in the business. Okay, that's the show. We'll be back in your feed on Saturday, so definitely subscribe. That way, you never miss an episode. Leave us a rating and a review in Apple or Spotify and tell your friends about us. You can follow us on Twitter at ICYMI_pod, and you can always drop us a note at ICYMI@slate.com.
ICYMI is produced by Vic Whitley-Berry, Candice Lim, and me, Kate Lindsay. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. See you online.
Or not.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.